You may have just watched me do a DraftKings draft on Stochastic's channel. Now we're here to do a drafters draft on the Splash Play channel. We're going to do, I got to click the Chiron. We're going to do all the stuff we always do here, talk about best ball, talk about the sites, draft a team here in drafters where the world is full point PPR, total points, no pods, so that playoff lock goes out the window. And of course, a lot of money to be won on there, $500,000 to first place on drafters. And it's been a great site for me to win money, finished top 12 last year, this past season in playoff best ball. Finished top 100 their big tournament a couple years ago. So I've had my paydays on drafters. Now let's hope that we can have one more. I am in the draft room for what it's worth, but it's not filled. So we can catch up on some shit here. And let me try to make the screen a little bit of a different size because, there we go. Here's your draft screen. let me try to get this going here. There we go. We got 9 spots left in this draft room, so if you want to play with me today on Drafters, you can. And, of course, you could actually probably have time right now to sign up and join me on there. $100 deposit match on Drafters for the all the plays you can make on there, pick up stuff, in addition to the best ball tournaments. They also have a cheap tournament as well with $2 entry fees on there, $100K prize pool if you want to check that out, the DraftKings Mini Best Ball Championship. But either way, I've had a lot of fun playing on Drafters. They've been a great partner for this channel. So get in there and draft with me because it doesn't matter as much. We're not killing each other in pods like we might be on some other sites out there. But I feel like, hey, we're on stream right now. Might as well talk about the big real-time assisted debate that's going on out there. And if you're not familiar, a site out there, ETR, you may have heard of this site, Establish the Run. If you're a Splash Play viewer, you probably don't watch much of the content out there. But yes, the ETR basically put out this product with the Solver, which is their optimizer company that's affiliated, but not, they don't own it directly. So it's a little bit of a weird relationship there. They put out a product that ironically or coincidentally, I used on stream last year. There are 2 products I used on stream. The best ball overlay tool from our friend Pat over at Fantasy Dog Pound. That's still live as well at bestballoverlay.com. You can use promo code SPLASH on there if you want to save some money. The Solver tool, though, was out last year, and now it's getting pushed more, worked up more for best ball. But it was working for Battle Royales last season. And I have to say, like, the thing that people seem to not grasp in terms of users on Twitter, which, as you know, as I've talked about the best ball community on Twitter, a lot of people that are maybe not the smartest out there that have for some reason built audiences and communities out of whatever they're doing, more power to them. You have those people freaking out because they've never used the product, don't know what it does. Then you have people as well that assume it's like, the most advanced version of what it actually is. When in reality, it's just a projection tool, a correlation tool more than anything. It's nothing that's going to change your life. It will help you keep you more disciplined. If you're somebody that needs to balance exposures across a 150 set of lineups, those things will help you out a bunch. And look, I'm a partner with a Solver. I think they do great work. But it's not going to change the world of best ball as much as people think, especially with the amount of market penetration it'll have. It won't. What it will do is probably make a couple of 150 maxers a little bit less stupid. It'll probably make a few other people out there that want to spend the 35 or 39 bucks a month a little bit less stupid overall. But if you know what you're doing in drafts for the most part, and if you are disciplined about things, and if you are reviewing exposures and balance things out manually, you're probably doing a very similar practice anyway to what you're going to get out of a Solver tool or anything else out there. So that's the main thing I would say for the RTA debate. Obviously, people are going to feel how they feel about it and getting their feelings on things. And yes, if you can tally another draft with me, Chunk, have no fear. But yeah, I'd say in general here and I appreciate you asking though, Chunk. You're one of the best. For you guys out there, like if you are one of those people that's like, oh, I'm so panicked about it. And I know our guy KY in the Discord is like, well, what if they use it to give people like player history? So, like every time a player snipes a QB ahead, that then it'll like tell you to take the QB early. Yeah, that would be great. It's not what these companies are putting out. They're putting out an MVP, a minimum viable product for what they're doing. And it's not disrespect to ETR or the Solver. They're creating a product that has the basic value of getting you to like that ground level of competency. But you would get the same thing if you read Leone's Best Ball Manifesto. You get the same thing if you watch Peach streams for weeks, let alone years. You get the same thing if you follow, what Karane's doing. And even then, like that won't always work out as well because even if you have balanced portfolios and structures, maybe you didn't take the right players. Maybe you didn't do those things. So it ultimately comes down to how much people actually want to listen to a tool and go with it. And it's not quite like an optimizer where people will just take their hand off the wheel and see what happens. So I think ultimately it doesn't matter very much, but a lot of things that don't matter very much get blown up on Twitter, as we've seen in recent weeks and months. And that's how it goes. I'm not afraid of this. I would like that, please. You seem terrified of it. You seem like you're more conspiratorial about it, but I think KY does veer in the conspiracy world a little bit. Does it save the draft data? Do they know play combos for draft histories? I would doubt it. I would sincerely doubt it. If they did have that, they might use it internally, but even that, it would be so much data to save. That's the other part of it too, is like, and that's something that people won't really get. Storage for data, and I know this having run a betting startup where you're saving literally every bet in the world that was updated every few minutes. You spend so much in cloud costs if you rack up, a bunch of things. Like let's say you were saving every single user's draft clicks and their habits, and you save it to a database. They'd be paying more money they're making off the product. Like it wouldn't be a thing they would do. And Underdog doesn't allow you to tap live APIs. Like you can't access Underdog's APIs are probably private. That would show the stuff you actually need in real time. B, they would have to do things off of historical data because they can't get the live BBM data. So they would have to like go back and store, users last 4 years in tournaments or something on a database, make it reappear for them in a certain way. And they have to manipulate all that data as well, which would also be a nightmare. So ultimately the things people are worried about, very impossible for most companies to do. And the solver tool doesn't do it. And the things that people would get the most value from, none of the tools do. So I don't know. Ultimately, I think it's much ado about nothing, but that's a lot of things. Just feel like it's an advantage with the tools at the end of the day. Wish Underdog would make more of this to include, or more of an effort to include some of those tools, I guess. I mean, look, I've been pretty clear how I feel about Underdog without talking too much because of stuff that I've still going on with them. I think that the big issue they have is like, they represent themselves one way, and now you see what they are, which is just a company that wants to get money from you and wants to get money from other people and doesn't really care about the process. I think the sooner you accept that, the more it won't hurt as much when they do things that feel not player friendly. But ultimately, like it was coming at some point. There are probably private people that have been doing the same thing and might have been making a lot of money from it. So that's sort of that's the game, unfortunately. But that's my view on it. Obviously, people are entitled to feel differently. But I feel like I've been in the space long enough and I've known tools and I've worked with the various tools out there a couple times as well. They'll all add value. Frankly, I think the brick one, like if you want to talk about the closest to something exposing the game, the brick one will tell you a few player trait things as well. And will give you like literal draft capital buckets, which the solver tool doesn't do. I think that tool is like more close to exposing the game if that's the case. But I don't think it actually exposes much of anything. So that's still how I feel about it. It's helpful to keep yourself disciplined. Absolutely. That's the biggest benefit is if you know what you're doing, you need to keep yourself honest. It's like a calorie tracker. It's like weighing yourself daily. That's what a lot of the apps are. And it'll tell you like, hey, they'll boost, an RB with your QB or your wide receiver or whatever, but you should know that anyway. Don't draft much season-long best ball currently. They're not going for week 17. What strategically would you try to do differently? Not sure what the question is. I might be reading this stupidly. But other than for drafters, what would you do differently? For drafters, week 17 is still a cherry you could put on top. So that's one thing I would say. For drafters in general, though, the big thing is that you need to hit on your guys that are season-long successes. On Underdog and DraftKings, you can make the case that like you don't want a Saquon Barkley. You want to get leverage against Saquon Barkley. Like you want Jalen Hurts if you think Saquon Barkley is going to do well over the course of a regular season, because then you have more leverage for the playoffs. For drafters, you kind of want, to me, the most binary outcomes possible. You want caveman logic. You want the Dunning-Kruger curve, basically, with the idiots on both sides. You want it to just be like, hey, what's the best outcomes for certain players? And you don't even have to necessarily have the Saquon, the Derrick Henry to win, but you're both of them, but you might need to have one. You probably need to have one in a lot of builds. So just keeping in mind that like you want to have the kind of median outcome best players more, as opposed to a DraftKings and Underdog where you want to have the guys that are lucky enough to spike then and hopefully we're good enough to keep you alive throughout the year. That's how I'd view it. Now, Tyler here will expose this tool if that's what people want. I mean, people want as much as anybody. Tyler in the streets, engaging in everywhere. I know that. We got Justin Jefferson, Bijan Robinson, CeeDee Lamb here up top. Jefferson I like. Bijan I like. Bijan to me feels a little bit more like a must-have on drafters kind of play. But I like Jefferson too. I'll take Jefferson here. I really do feel strongly about Bijan Robinson this year. I feel like, to me, I don't hear him hyped up as much. And he, to me, had one of the more impressive years in football last year. I know everybody loves Saquon, the volume that he did, him taking advantage, certainly, of all the yards being blocked in front of him was something we talked about all year long via the fantasy points data that was out there. But Bijan is another guy I've talked about a few times on stream so far this season. And his numbers, to me, the fact that he had a positive EPA per target per route, or target per rush rather, 0.07 EPA per rush, 0.09 EPA per target. At the volume he had, where you're talking about over 20 intended touches a game, 22 intended touches a game, to be that efficient, to still have a 20% avoided tackle rate for Bijan, to be getting 3.5 intended red zone touches a game, like actually a little bit more than that with the targets he gets, almost 4. I think he had a really good workload. So I think for Bijan, the Atlanta offense being better, being ascendant is like a big thing for me. Jefferson, I think, is good no matter what. But like you have another guy coming in this year with Felton, who I think could be a better version of Naylor. Could maybe even be, if things really work out, he could be a better version of Addison. I think all those things, and having a new QB as well, McCarthy. Like I like McCarthy a lot, but I don't think it's a guarantee that he produces quite as much as Darnold the moment he steps on the field. I think Jefferson being at 3 now on every site, it surprises me a little bit. I'd rather have Bijan, but took what we took here. Yes, please get the likes up here. My second best ball draft in a row, so show some love if you can. Hit the like button, subscribe. I know we're doing drafters stuff on here, and everybody wants to see the BBMs, but I'm building a balanced portfolio this year, and I'm not beholden to one company as much this year, which has been a positive for me mentally. So please show some love if you can. Check out drafters and hit the like button, subscribe, do all that. Of course, we'll hit some underdog later in the week as well. DraftKings, probably going to mostly do on Stochastic, but I'll still spin the wheel on here sometimes, do some DraftKings drafts. I will cover everything on here. That's my promise. That's my premise, the whole deal. Let's see what we get with this click coming up. All right, Trey McBride here. Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving up top. Obviously, I do love Bucky. Just took Trey McBride in the same spot. Well, 1-2 turn, or actually 2-3 turn rather, on DraftKings last draft. I'm going to go Trey McBride here. So Trey McBride, my tight end pick. Like him relative to ADP, better than Bowers, just because if Bowers were picked 22, I'd take him there as well. But Trey McBride, to me, improving this year, had good red zone work last year. We all know the touchdown regression that he was desperately due for. Harrison's going to be better this year. Maybe the run game gets a little more split with Connor and Benson being more likely to split a workload. But I think for me, McBride's still a very strong click that I'm comfortable taking no matter what. And we got Harrison on the way back, so we could do the full Arizona. Not really an ADP discount, but I can live with it. So Jefferson, Harrison, McBride, Arizona stack. Kyler Murray going to be a priority for me for sure. Hey, Gabe Davis in the 110. Love to see that. Drafters, feel free to hop in. I mean, really, any of the sites, feel free to play with me this year. I'm not going to be a dick about it. I can't care as much anymore. And frankly, when I saw some people that drafted the most of me last year and how they did advance rate-wise, I think it might actually be a benefit for me. So please, feel free to hop in any drafts you want, but I do appreciate you guys balancing yourselves out, getting into a few of them. Our PPR god. Yeah, we'll see about that. I'm definitely doing more PPR drafting this year because plan is to max out drafters, and I think I'm naturally going to end up getting close to maxing out DraftKings if I do 2 or 3 drafts a week on stream plus a few on my own. So probably going to be maxing out all the big tournaments this year is going to be, I wouldn't say a goal, but probably an inevitability. We'll see. We've got a lot of summer left. I'm a little worried actually with all the drafts and drafting on all 3 platforms this year that aggressively, in addition to the MLB stuff I do and the NBA stuff I do, a little worried I'm going to be behind the 8 ball and have to draft an ungodly amount of teams in July and August. We'll worry about that when we get there. I have not been, as you might have noticed on stream here, I've not been as like aggressive about getting streams out there just because like my headspace is lacking for when I have to do MLB and NBA prep daily. But I'm still actively preparing for NFL every day. I've been updating my rankings more than I probably should. So, hey, speaking of rankings available, join the channel down below. You also get them on Tails now on OddsShopper. I'm going to be posting actually 2 things to my OddsShopper page. Number 1 will be my rankings whenever they update. And number 2 will be actually news alerts. So whenever there's something I want to put out there, a thought about a player alert or a news thing, it's going to be a lot of them. Basically, I'm going to be putting that out through OddsShopper Tails this year. So go check that out too. It's another package. I don't know. Join the Discord. You probably get it in there as well. But that's one thing I'm looking at right now. Anyway, what we got coming up here? I feel like the long spots between picks would have liked one where I could have frequent picks coming up here. I'll have to wait for it. NBA's fixed, save the energy for the real stuff. The thing is, I still on a daily basis gamble the most on NBA. So that's why my energy goes there. But also, like, I don't know. I feel like my NBA streams this year, like if I were to put myself up against other content creators out there, I feel like I've done the best in terms of NBA analysis out of at least most of the people that I've watched out there. And there's a lot of great content creators, so don't take that as like a slight to anybody. But I'm like proud of my NBA work, so I definitely want to keep it, going as much as I can. We'll see. The MLB transition might be the tough part because like that's not going to make me any money. and I also I like MLB, but I certainly gamble less than I do on NBA. So that's what it is. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to all you guys hanging out. Appreciate you guys being here. But support the show. Do check out Drafters. Again, promo code SPLASH on there. $100 deposit match. You can draft on stream with me. I'm going to have the most streamed drafts this year on Drafters. I tell you that for a fact. So get on board with me here, and you watch your money go a lot further than some of the other sites out there. And check out the Discord too. $5 to join. All these things linked in the description down below. Lots of ways to support the show. So if you want to see this content, please do support the show. All right, we got Jefferson, McBride, Harrison. So Arizona double here. Jefferson on top of it. DJ Moore falling in ADP in this room. He's already fallen a lot in ADP in general in the markets after some negative coach speak from Ben Johnson. Well, it wasn't really from Ben Johnson. It was more about the team in general. And I think beat reporters talked about DJ Moore and how the team might be falling out of favor with him a little bit. Adding Luther Burden on, definitely some duplicative things for how DJ Moore has been used in his career. But I still think DJ Moore just buying into a Ben Johnson offense, taking a part of it feels good. So if I get DJ Moore 5 picks after ADP and he's already going to pick 42, that's fine. And maybe we get Minnesota, Chicago in week 17. Who knows? I guess we'll know tomorrow, but who knows? All right, pick coming up here. We got Joe Mixon, Zay Flowers. Mixon here feels pretty safe. They're adding Woody Marks, who I think has no juice. So Mixon having no juice doesn't really matter. And frankly, Houston's going to be a better offense that the guys are adding. Surprised to see Jaden Higgins get a once-in-a-lifetime deal with him being added to Houston. Fully guaranteed deal for him. Not something that happens past the first round very often. Higgins is a guy I thought was interesting, but was really worried he was kind of a little bit of a false flag because his numbers at Iowa State, to me, looked an incredible amount like Xavier Hutchinson's, and Hutchinson was barely a prospect. But Higgins then had the great athletic profile. He goes to Houston with good draft capital. Higgins might be a lot more of a thing than you would like him to be if you're a Nico Collins drafter at pick 112. Like, that's been a vibe I've been getting over the last week or so. Even the way Nico's talking about it, where he's like, these guys are going to push me, I'm going to push them. Like, Higgins does a lot of things that align one-to-one with what Nico Collins does, whereas Mixon will just benefit from having the ball move downfield more easily. The important thing is the Bears line can now block long enough to make the wide receivers relevant. That's true, but I mean, offensive line, certainly it matters a lot. I would say, though, that offensive line is one of those things where it matters a little bit less when you have really good scheme, because like the main thing for offensive line is to know, hey, our QB can hold the ball this amount of time without getting hit. And like, here's how we're going to accomplish that, and what we're going to set up around that. The bigger issue is when you have our QB can hold the ball for this amount of time, but we don't know that as a team. So we're going to have him set up plays that have double moves downfield for receivers, things like that. That's when things fuck up. For Ben Johnson, they could have a shitty offensive line, and I don't think it would matter because he would know just throw some more screens, some more flanker stuff, use your Luther Burns and your DJ Moore for low A-dot things. And then when you actually get protection, and you can set up, a Dunes A downfield, whatever the case may be. Frankly, Loveland too, probably get targeted a lot on low A-dot stuff. I think it's a good thing, obviously, when you have offensive line play be better, but for good coaching overcomes all, at least hopefully. And I would say more so, maybe not even good coaching. Elite coaching overcomes all. Good coaching makes the most out of like good situations. So like if Tennessee is a good offense, I think Brian Callahan can make that work. For Ben Johnson, I would personally think that he could make any offense work, but might be a little recency biased, I guess. We got Best Ball Guy hanging out. Shout out all you guys hanging out here, doing a little drafters drafting. Check out all the YouTube guys on here too. We got Fantasy Football Garage, Best Ball Guy. Appreciate all these guys doing their work on YouTube as well. Always good to see some new creators out there putting their voice, because it doesn't always have to be the same people talking about stuff. We got James Conner here, can increase our Arizona correlation, which is probably something a tool like the Solvers tool would want to do. I don't mind Conner here. Debo, though, would make us better at receiver. I'm going to go Conner. Real Arizona stacking so far. 2 RBs early. Conner was really trusted by the Cardinals last year. That's still the main thing that'll stand out for me. They've had a lot of talk this year about switching to more of a timeshare with Trey Benson, and Benson did look good enough last year that you can make a credible case that that should be the case. Let's see. James Conner last year, 3.2 intended red zone rushes a game, 0.3 intended red zone targets. Negative 0.01 EPA per rush at his volume. That's perfectly fine. Positive EPA per target at 0.08 there. 25% target per out run rate. Connor's earned a lot last year, and I don't see why he would lose it. All right. RB. All right, Kyler comes up later here. I think we're going to try to push Kyler. Pollard getting an offensive glow up for sure. Diggs, I really hate this ADP. Montgomery, let's do all old RBs. Sure. Mixon, Connor, Montgomery start with Jefferson, Harrison, DJ Moore, and McBride. I like the team. This is like, it feels like a real dusty RB room. I got to get that. I know in a year where everybody's going nuts for RJ Harvey types, and I worry about the outlay being there for him as much as people expect. Just taking projectable guys who have shares of the offense. And these are guys too, where it's not like, you talk about Jerome Ford, like, yeah, Jerome Ford's got a share of the offense. Mixon, Connor, and Montgomery, no matter what, have a real share of the offense. Like, it's not a bullshit one. It's not 5 touches and that's it. Even Marshawn Lloyd. Love Marshawn Lloyd. Think this is the year he jumps out. I know our guy, Emo Cowboy Tyler, was posting the Discord before the show. Some positive coach speak stuff about Marshawn Lloyd. Now the coach should talk about him and wanted to see him do what he has to do out there in OTAs. Like, that's still not a sure part of the offense, even though I think it is. But like Mixon, Connor, Montgomery, you're talking at least half the workload, probably more for Mixon and Connor, 60, 70, 80 in that range, hopefully. Mixon, frankly, it might be 90 and it wouldn't shock me. That's what we're doing here. All right. What are your thoughts on Golden? Is it pointless to ponder? I don't think it's pointless to ponder. I mean, I think the reports now of them putting out, there's apparently something they said to his agent, to Jaden Reed's agent, like, don't worry, he's still our wide receiver 1. For a wide receiver 1, he was targeted comically low, and I don't think that's the correct way to phrase it. He was targeted 21% of the time last year as quote-unquote wide receiver 1. Also got played off the slot a bunch. And Jaden Reed's like efficient. 0.5 EPA per target is pretty good for a guy. Does get a good amount of short targets overall. He only had 9.5 air yards per target. Like, Jaden Reed was good enough. He just didn't earn targets well enough. That's the thing it's going to be again. It's going to be him getting 20%, 21% target share. Maybe Dobbs, Savion, Wicks all get cut, and they're all putting up 20-ish. Golden, to me, I would say projects as like a high teens target per out rate guy. Should be efficient, but he was only getting about 21% target per out run in college, so it's hard to expect that to go up exponentially. I think Golden's fine. I think he'll have spike weeks, but I think he's like a worse version of Xavier Worthy. I mean, easy comp because he went to the same college. But like Worthy still commanded like 28% target per out run rate last year, or into college last year, heading into the pros. Golden even lower, but a little bit more efficient. So I think Golden's not like a washout player. I think he's got some upside, but I really don't think he's a great click at that spot. Frankly, I don't think any of Green Bay is a great click before pick 100. But if they're your wide receiver 5, wide receiver 4, makes a little more sense there. Let's see. Caught the live. Day is better. DJ Moore being a wide receiver 3 now is a beautiful thing. Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's a nice thing to see him at that ADP for sure. Taking him, 2-3 turn would not have felt good with the guys they've added in. We got Kyler Murray here, who we could try to push around the bend. But really at this point, it's all QBs anyway. So I'm going to take Kyler. Got our Arizona double here. It's too valuable to me. I don't think Chunk would snipe me, but I don't know. Stroop here. Is that one of the siblings that does the fan speak thing? I don't even know. Or are they Shoop? I don't fucking know. I don't know anybody who I don't know personally. That's that. Are Mahomes and Fields steals at their ADP? Mahomes might be. Fields, I think, is at an appropriate ADP, absorbing some risk that they could decide they want to move in a different direction at QB. Maybe give him the hook at some point because injury guarantee stuff for him could maybe be an issue later in the year. But I think Fields is a good click. I have no issue with it. I would say that for me, I probably prefer Fields at his ADP to Mahomes at his. But I think Mahomes at a certain point, like last year, I made a bet against Mahomes all summer long. I was one of the only people out there doing content. It was like, yeah, Mahomes was awful the year before last. Why are we paying a higher price tag for it? I think that this year you can go back there and feel good about the shot that they learned a lesson from the Super Bowl last year. That's how I feel about it. We got a pick coming up here. Kelsey on the board. Fields still on the board. Scadaboo, Pacheco, Tracy here for more RBs. Would like to get a receiver in, and frankly, I talked up Jaden Higgins enough. Let's go that way. So Higgins is wide receiver 4 at pick 99. A little rich for my blood, but all the signals are there for Higgins being involved day 1. And I think the hopeful outcome here is that Higgins becomes the the T. Higgins to Nico Collins, Jamar Chase. And I think that's a reasonable outcome to hope for here. So I'm going Jaden Higgins as wide receiver 4. Big upside with some projectable guys in front of him. Fields, May, am I stopping at 2? Yeah, they're both starters. I would. I don't love May as much as the field does. Obviously, last year famously was well above on Jaden Daniels, well under on Drake May. Again, one of very few people out there to have that take and to stick by it all year. But I think May would have had a really good shot to make a big leap this year if they didn't give him the most donkey coaches coming in. Like a McDaniels, Vrabel situation is not really the one I think gives you the biggest upside. But I think May's got enough talent there. He does run enough. There was always more running opportunity for Ryan Tannehill in that Tennessee offense than he actually took for himself. So I think you have a shot to see a big year from Drake May, but I just don't expect the passing production to be the biggest thing for them. I think they're going to run the ball a lot. That's what Vrabel's done every stop in his career. Let the defense do the work. I don't see why that would change. Do you think stacking Arizona so heavily limits your upside a lot, or is it worth it for the correlated bet? The offense is great. I would say for me, it's worth it for the correlated bet. I also think that with this particular team, I feel good about the receivers I got around Arizona, in particular, Jefferson and Moore. Like, if you only take those guys and that's your bet, you're taking a bunch of early RBs around them. I think that maybe gets tough. But I like Arizona enough. I think that Kyler showed a good amount in this offense last year. I think Harrison being better in year 2 is a thing. McBride was already great as he was. So the big leap you're just looking for is Harrison to be less dog shit. And he still had some underlying good numbers last year as well. Harrison, let's see. 22% target per out run, not great, but according to the Green Bay Packers, he'd be better than their wide receiver 1. Still a 0.15 EPA per target. Again, not the most efficient, could be better. 1.4 D targets a game, that's pretty good. 0.2 EPA on those, not very good. 0.8 red zone targets a game, pretty good. Needs to do more with him for sure. For comparison, Harrison got 0.8. McBride got 1.4 red zone targets a game. So maybe they both get to 1.5 this year would be nice. I like Arizona. I think Arizona's a team that's worth getting to, but they definitely were more run dominant last year. So if you wanted just to assume that happens again, I wouldn't be mad at you for not stacking as aggressively as I did. There's been a lot of reports too about Murray wanting to run more this year. So maybe that changes the arithmetic a little bit. All right, we've got Purdy, Herbert, May here. Wide receivers available. Keon Coleman, big-bodied guy outside. Ugh. Not my favorite pocket here. I'm going to go Keon Coleman. I'm going to increase the wide receivers we have a little bit here. Coleman, a guy I expect can have some upside as the only big-bodied outside target that Buffalo's going to have. They're going to have a lot of guys who can get open in space, can probably crush it versus a zone. I think your man beater, though, is going to be Keon Coleman. So I am a fan of Keon Coleman at this point. Unstacked Dak, 8 spots for ADP. The game's alive and well. I didn't even see that. Yeah, it's not the smartest. I mean, he could get Jake Ferguson on the back end if you want to give him some cover. But yes, the best ball, it's always going to be the thing you have in a room. No matter how many stalwart tools you have, there'll be somebody in a room doing that. At least you can argue the Cowboys are going to lead to pass volume. Not with Schottenheimer as a coach. I don't think so. Maybe low ADOT pass volume. I really think that Pickens going there was not the best move for him. But we'll see. The offensive coordinator they hired is going to have to really exert some force over Schottenheimer, because Schottenheimer has been, over the years, one of my least favorite offensive coordinators. When he's had any sort of say in play calling, I just don't think he's good at that job. We'll see. All right, we're on the clock here. So I thought about taking Drake May and Kyle Williams, but I felt like that would betray the conversation we just had. Another wide receiver here. We could do the Houston stack, maybe. Christian Kirk. Let's do that. Go up and get Kirk as wide receiver 6, and we'll see what we get on the way back. So the team so far, Kyler Murray, Joe Mixon, James Conner, David Montgomery. Again, an older RB room, but guys that have legit roles that are projectable, so I can live with it. And Mixon should still be the bell cow. Conner, hopefully the majority back for Arizona. At wide receiver, we have Justin Jefferson, Marvin Harrison, DJ Moore, Jaden Higgins, Keon Coleman, Christian Kirk. Felt good about the top 3, less good about after that. So I wanted to add some volume here. Getting more Houston in at this point without Nico Collins, I think feels fine. Trey McBride is our elite tight end. Shouldn't have to worry about him too much, barring injury or anything like that. I think the lineup has merit so far. Just like, and I like the RB room, even though maybe a little more costly than you would like it to be. I feel like if I didn't have to give up a good wide receiver 4 or like a more confidence-inspiring wide receiver 4, and I had these RBs, I would feel better about it. But I still like the RBs. Low A dot to J Will. Man, I am not a Javonte guy. I don't even think he deserves a nickname at this point. He should be Javonte Williams. He shouldn't even be Javonte. There's probably a better NFL player named Javonte out there at this point. But Dallas, Jaden Blue's price tag has come up so much. I mean, he went at 119 here. So our guy Chunk, who was a little predisposed to Cowboys. Blue is a big risk for those guys, but I don't know if Blue's actually good enough for a team that's kind of dumb to take opportunity away from. So kind of a little bit of a double whammy spot for me and how I view Dallas. If I were going to take it back, I would take Jaden Blue, though, because he's got juice. Javonte, no juice. Miles Sanders, no juice. Last year, Javonte. Let's see where we got. Javonte, negative 0.2 EPA per rush, not very good. Negative 0.1 EPA per target, not very good. Got targeted more than he probably should with a 26.5% target per out run, but only a 12.5% avoided tackle rate. Not really where you want to be. If he had 20%, you could talk me into him having a little more juice left. Sanders, numbers going to look similar if I had to guess. 16% avoided tackle rate for Sanders, but not very efficient EPA-wise. Similar target earning. Both guys very susceptible to being beaten up, I think would be my thought. Let's go Stroud here. We got the Houston correlation. Feels maybe a little bit weird to take Stroud when you don't have Nico. But I don't know. Maybe Nico gets hurt and we end up an outcome where Higgins is wide receiver 1 and Kirk is playing out of the slot like I expect anyway. So we're going to go with this one and I feel okay about it. Denver had no idea how to use Javonte. Javonte just doesn't have a lot of juice left. Like Javonte, I would argue, was never as good as the industry made him out to look. Like that'd be the first thing here. He got there a lot through volume in his rookie year. Then he got big hurt and he got less athletic. That also doesn't help either. But even the rookie year, like he wasn't as good as Breece Hall was in that stint, even though people made it like a 1-to-1 comparison. I would argue that maybe Sean Payton doesn't know how to use RBs as well as other teams do at this point. And I think people are still holding the New Orleans stuff as a positive for him when in reality, maybe the game moved away from him a little bit in that respect. But I think really the main thing for me is I think RJ Harvey's really overdrafted. And I don't think Javonte was good last year, even though he got good enough work. But Harvey at his, like if he got Javonte's workload from last year, Harvey'd probably be a better player, but it's still probably not worth that ADP. Anyway, those are my general thoughts. We got Rashad White here to add to our mediocre RB room, and I'm okay with that. Tucker Kraft, not a bad click at this spot either. Pretty good ADP value actually on Kraft. But I'll go Rashad White. Oh, no. Missed the click. All right, fuck it. We'll take the Tucker Kraft value as tight end too. I was going to punt. You know what? Honestly, Tucker Kraft a better click than Dalton Schultz late. Because there are weeks where Tucker Kraft can outscore Trey McBride. So, frankly, the timeout there might have saved me for myself. Because Rashad White added to that RB room, fine. My tight end room, though, is now kind of sick, I think. Especially for PPR. So we have Kyler and Stroud as our QBs. RB room is Mixon, Connor, Montgomery. Again, got to add some more volume there, but we got projectable something to it. Justin Jefferson, Marvin Harrison, DJ Moore, Jaden Higgins, Keon Coleman, Christian Kirk at receiver. Really want to improve this wide receiver room still. Tight end, McBride and Tucker Kraft. I like that a lot. Are you just fat figure Gino? Is Gino's ADP, is it up that high? Oh yeah, Gino, 10 picks out of ADP. Well, at least you have him correlated with Jacoby Myers, who might lose his job to Jack Besh. You got that going for you, Chunk. I want Dobbins in Dallas. Dobbins would instantly be the best back out of that group by a wide margin. Though Jaden Blue is the one player that Dallas might have fallen ass backwards into like somebody that's got legit upside. Jaden Blue, as we talked about the other RB's numbers, again, not high avoided tackle rate stuff for Javonte or for Miles Sanders. They're not shifty. They're not going to get shiftier as they get older. For Jaden Blue, he's pretty fast. He also, actually, you know what? He didn't miss tackles a bunch either. He's crazy fast, but only a 19% avoided tackle rate. So that could be better. Flat 0 EPA per rush was Jaden Blue in college as well. 14 touches a game, intended touches a game. Yeah, Blue's athletic profile stands out more than his advanced analytics profile. He's good versus a 8-man box, though, which is impressive for a smaller guy. But Dallas, frankly, could end up with none of those RBs hitting, and it wouldn't shock me. Wanted / needed White was thrilled to click. That's tough. That's tough. Yeah, clicking, honestly, it sounds stupid. Getting good at clicking things in a timely fashion, one of your best skills overall, I think, if you are a best ball player. Like getting Blue now before he may win job and ADP skyrockets at worst. The flip side, though, is that he may not have the job start of camp, and he probably falls in ADP a good amount. You have it on either side. Like, you could end up right, and then he wins the backfield, and then he's going 30 spots higher. But I think there's an equally high chance that he ends up being firmly the backup, and he's going pick 180. You could have him for free. So that's sort of the trade-off I would view it as. We're on the clock here. We've got Adam Thielen in probably his retirement year. He's a projectable player that works. We can increase our Houston bet as well if we want. But I'll go Thielen first. We'll see what happens. So Adam Thielen here, another Carolina, well, a Carolina player coming in, helping out the back half of this wide receiver room that feels kind of flimsy. My take on the Jags backfield is that anybody can win it right now, and Tutin's getting overdrafted. There's been some negative reports so far in ATN and how the coaches feel about him. I think that's bullshit. I think they don't really know until they're out there practicing, getting a real feel for who's doing what. But I think biggest thing to me is that people want Bashal Tutin to be Bucky Irving. He has the avoided tackle rate stuff. He doesn't have the other things. He's not as good of an EPA guy. He's not as efficient. He's not as good in the pass game. Also got stuffed a crazy high amount. One of the highest stuffed run rates in the class was Bashal Tutin. And his issue is that even if he is Bucky Irving, he's going up against two Rashad Whites because he's got ATN and Bigsby there. I think both those guys were live to take work away from Tutin. So I think they're all valid picks if you're going to take them. Frankly, I think you can take them all together in a room and it wouldn't be crazy as long as you have enough RBs that are okay around them. I think somebody hits there no matter what. But I think that for there, like, there's really no guarantee any of them is like the player you want. All right, so we got Rico Dowdle here, who has a share of that Carolina backfield and can be fine. Jalen Noel here would add more to our Houston stack. The question is, do we really want more to the Houston stack? We didn't take Nico, so if we're taking a fade on Nico, I think you take Noel here. I think Rico would round out the RB room a little bit better and logically, but I'm going to go Jalen Noel. My big fear of taking Noel here is I think he and Kirk are competing for the same snaps. But frankly, for best ball, it probably shouldn't matter as much as we think it does. Because like Noel, when he plays, I think is going to get your Tank Dell downfield targets. Christian Kirk, to me, going to work the intermediate area a little bit more. And if he's dust, he probably loses targets opportunity overall to Noel. But I think this gives me outs. And the fact that I don't have Nico here, like if you take Nico with Higgins, Kirk, Noel, that's probably a little bit OD, especially if you add Mixon on top. We basically faded everybody who's not, we faded Nico, got everybody who's not Nico. So I think for most formats to make sense, probably makes the most sense, to be honest, for a week 17 playoff pod kind of situation thing, as opposed to the total points format. Because Nico, I do expect to be good. I see it would really go crazy, though, if Nico got hurt. I'll say that. Shipley at 169, hate to see it. That is a little bit rich for him. But, no Kenny Gainwell there anymore. If you're adding an AJ Dillon, I don't know how much that matters. Let's see, my third year on Drafters. Can't seem to make a profit. Made it well last year on Underdog, but hopefully this is my year. Thanks for all you do. That's interesting. It's like, for me, Drafters has been the one I've found it the most easy to make a profit. Like, to be totally candid, and it's not disrespect to Drafters, who you should sign up on. Like, again, promo code SPLASH, $100 deposit match. They've been a great partner here. They're paying me to do streams all summer, so they're really cool in my book. So if you enjoy this content, go check them out, get some deposit bonus for yourself, and support the show. For Drafters, I've had the best successes on there in terms of, technically, I finished better in the big board last year than I finished in Drafters 2 years ago, but I got a better payout for Drafters 2 years ago, if I'm remembering correctly, finishing top 100 there. And then last year, I finished top 12 in the playoff basketball tournament, won a lot from that as well. So I like Drafters, and that was like last year in playoff basketball. I legit did 3 drafts on stream because they asked me to do them as a partnership thing, and I did them, and I won that money. I really think if you're putting a lot of entries into Drafters, I think your money goes the furthest here compared to Underdog and DraftKings, because you just have less sharp people. DraftKings maybe a little bit less so, because you do get the weirdos in there who are not the weirdos, but people who are just playing DFS to come do a best ball draft. They don't know what they're doing. That's certainly a thing. But Underdog, And again, I'm not trying to bash Underdog because I still like the site, even though I think the company is kind of a fuck up company at this point in things. That said, like for drafters, your money would go further on drafters, would be my guess, because my money's gone further on drafters with much less entries. But still luck component. Do we think Dell's career is shot? It's gonna be hard for him. It's not shot, but he's not gonna play this year. Very unlikely he does. They spent too much draft capital at receiver to think that he had a realistic shot at coming back. It's called variance. We're talking about finishes. Sure. Last year's my first drafters here. Overall did the best on drafters out of all platforms. I mean, that's what I would think for most of you guys, but obviously, still variance, still luck, all that involved for sure. Drafters, the one thing I will say for the regular season, and I said it as we were doing our weekly review shows this year, like the big thing with drafters is that you'll notice how many dead teams you have if you don't have the star players early on. So that's something maybe that can be a bit of an anathema on drafters if you're not a chalky drafter. But I'm going to go Justice Hill here. Get another thing where we kind of have a thesis for this team. Guys, at the very least, a share of a backfield, if not more. Justice Hill, Ravens have brought in nothing. They could have easily gotten a cheap RB who had a shot to take some Derrick Henry work away. Maybe even supplant Justice Hill as that third down back / we're playing from behind back. And they're not doing it. So to me, Hill behind Shipley by 21 spots is batshit. I don't think that should be the case. I know people want to get Saquon leverage and whatever. Hill's a better pick to me. But, he'll help me out a lot last year, so I'm definitely a little predisposed to Justice Hill when nobody talked about him last year, and he was like legit one of the best 17th, 18th round picks. Shout out Chunk playing off the $100 deposit match they gave him 2 years ago, and Chunk's put in a lot of drafts. That's good to hear. Jarvis, I feel like I can make a complete portfolio. DK or Underdog, let's take high variance player takes, more complete fades to try to get lucky on week 17. I think it's a fair way to approach it. I think that if you're trying to be an exposure maxi kind of guy, like really fixating on that, drafter is probably the best place to do it, because if you get that 8% player that some people just didn't like, content creators maybe didn't like, and fudded down like your Saquon last year, that'll carry you pretty far. What do I think Mostert's role will be? Not good. Maybe a slight inhibitor to Genty if things don't start well for him. Genty also was not great on pass downs in college. That's maybe a bit of a risk for him. But I think he's still going to be mostly not involved. All right, making this pick here. We've got 2 tight ends. We've got 8 receivers. Need more at RB. Gross spot at RB. Took Devin Neal with Kamara on the DraftKings draft I just did on Stochastic, which I encourage you guys to check out if you want another piece of PPR draft content from me. And I think that can work. I think on drafters here, we just want to get some late value in. Marshawn Lloyd went at 182 in this room, so that's gone. One of our easy late clicks. I'm going to go Neal for this build and hope that maybe we capture that outcome. But I'd say if you're not taking Kamara in a draft, Neal should really gain and appeal a good amount. I mean, he and Kendrick Miller both, I think, should. Though Miller's not been getting great coach speak so far from the new regime. And also the new regime picked Neal as one of their first, guys that are brought in. So I think the Kamara is still the safe click for sure. But Neal, if you're not taking Kamara, he probably looks a lot better. Is Keaton Mitchell worth clicking? I don't think so. I think he maybe was a one-year wonder. He really got phased out of the rotation when things mattered last year. He's still really efficient in terms of the targets he got. Didn't get a bunch, but 1 EPA flat per target is a crazy high number. Avoided tackle rate was still 20%. Justice Hill look. Justice Hill, 19% avoided tackle rate, 0.2 EPA per target, 0.01 EPA per rush. He was good too. That's probably the biggest issue for Keaton Mitchell is that they trust Hill, and Hill was good. But I don't think Mitchell's dead in the NFL, but he might have missed his window of time. Like when he was getting worked in meaningfully a couple years ago, you had the opportunity to be a part of it. Then he had the tough injury, and he's had a couple of tough injuries in his life. I think for Keaton Mitchell, I would worry that he missed that one window to really grab the role because they really trusted Justice Hill a lot, more than people realized last year. But I think he's still got enough talent. It would just be better for him if he went to anywhere it's got an open backfield. Like if he were on Cleveland right now, instead of some of the draft capital guys they had, I'd be like, oh shit, Keaton Mitchell could explode on Cleveland. Most will be great for helping Genty along in the NFL. How positive presence he was for Achane, like Mark Ingram did for Dobbins. That's a fair way to look at it. Like, I think it's possible that Mostert still does take some work away, similar to Achane, but no chance it'll be like what Mostert did, Achane's rookie year, where Mostert took like what fucking 20 touchdowns away that year. That's not going to happen. You don't pay Gentry draft capital and not put him out there immediately. He's the most ready to go, I would say, prospect, including QBs, RBs, maybe besides Abdul Carter. Probably most ready to go guy out of anybody who got drafted, I would think. We've got 5 RBs here. Jalen Royals on the board, who I do like as a late click. Diami Brown looking less appealing, with Travis Hunter being assured some wide receiver snaps. I'm going to go Tyler Lockett here. I do like Jalen Royals. I feel like I'm good on Jalen Royals for a little bit. Lockett going into the Cam Ward ecosystem is a positive. Cam Ward, even though he is not Jaden Daniels to me, and I can't make that more clear, Jaden Daniels was like, to me, a once-in-a-lifetime prospect to load up on and know that I was not going to fail, or feel really confident I wasn't going to fail. Cam Ward, I feel strongly about in a different way, where I view him more like a Stroud, who I also liked a lot his rookie year. I think there's going to be a lot of pass game production there. I think there's going to be an offense that gets improved by him being added in. So Lockett, old, kind of dusty, really fell apart in that Seattle offense last year. It's a little 0.15 EPA per target. 14% target per run is really shitty target earning. But if he can stay on the field out of the slot, just as a vet presence, I think Cam Ward's going to give him one more shot at a good year. So I'm going to go for Lockett in that last pick. And in this one, we've got 9 receivers. I think we've made up for any flaws in the process. I think Chubb could be a viable click here in the hopes he goes somewhere decent in free agency, and I do think that'll happen at some point. Sean Tucker, we don't have Bucky or White. Let's go for the gusto and go Sean Tucker. Sean Tucker, I think, very draftable when you don't have, frankly, when you don't have both White and Bucky. Even if you did have both, Sean Tucker, you could still make a case for. If one of those guys goes down, Sean Tucker's going to have a ton of work. So that's the first thing there. Roles should be most the same this year, with them keeping the same coaching staff in place, running the pass game coordinator to the offensive coordinator there, with Grizzard, I think, who's the coordinator now. So for Tampa Bay, I like Tucker as like a dart throw here for me, who just needs to get more RB talent in. But I think he's in play really as RB6, RB7, ideally in a lot of rooms. How about them tools? I talk about it at the top. I just don't think they matter as much, having used them and whatever. But again, if you are somebody that needs the discipline of seeing your exposures, ton of value being added. If you're somebody that needs to know that you should grab the QB because you have the wide receiver, it'll help you out. But like, you shouldn't need that, I think, for most people. Do you have any guys I like or dislike more than other sites because it's week to week, not season long? Interesting question. First of all, it's total points. I mean, I think inherently, like, your Saquons will be a little more valuable here. I'm sure they could be the equivalent of Saquon. I mean, obviously, your other RBs, your Henry, your McCaffrey. I think those are all a little bit more appealing here because it's kind of just about putting together the overall picture of how you're going to have enough points week to week to stay afloat and hopefully have enough spike weeks along the way. But to me, I feel like for drafters in general on here, I just prefer the more projectable guys with the more serious role. Like, I guess the Mixon, Connor, Montgomery group, like, I like those guys on Underdog and DraftKings as well. But for drafters, I just know they're going to give me enough points over the course of the season that I feel pretty good about their prospects in terms of the drafters format. And I also know too that, like, if I have enough good players in other spots as well, I can cover up some of the warts of a bad Mixon, Connor, Montgomery game. So I think the kind of mid-tier, I don't even say mid-tier, RBs I don't think are spectacular. I guess I like a little bit more on drafters. Whereas for Underdog, I want to get guys that have a shot at getting real roles, like your Marshawns. Like, I think a Marshawn, to me, even though he's fine on drafters, I think he has more appeal on an Underdog in DraftKings than he would in this format. But I don't know. Hard to say, though. It's a good question. I'll try to think about it more because I think that might be something worth talking about somewhat regularly. Pre-schedule, I still want 3 stacks. May drop to 2 after, but I'm soft. The more stacks, the better. It's always going to be the thing. Obviously, as long as they're good teams. Just before I made my last pick, Gabe Davis here picking in the 10 hole. Figured out what they say, how many wide receivers I had. Prob counted it 20 times. Yeah, it's all the way down the bottom, right? Wait, no, it's not there anymore. Is it info? Huh. I know it's here somewhere too, but I certainly don't look at it. I just count off the top of my head. All right. RB in play, wide receiver in play. Estime. Chubb. I'm going to go Chubb. I think Chubb finds a landing spot at some point, and we just want to add some potential here overall. Oh, above the word player. All right, hold on. Let's see this. Above the word player. Oh! Oh, shit. I honestly never noticed that. Yeah, it's right here. Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. All right, final team here on Drafters. Just going to do one draft today because I got to go pick up the kid. We got Kyler Murray and CJ Stroud at QB. At RB, we got Joe Mixon, James Conner, David Montgomery. That top three is going to have to carry a lot of water for this team. Justice Hill, Devin Neal, Sean Tucker, Nick Chubb. Chubb, I think if you're getting him for free in round 20, I still think he goes somewhere when there's one injury in camp, when there's just they don't trust the guy for the goal line. Frankly, Dallas and Nick Chubb still make a lot of sense too if they just can't get the results they want out of Javonte and Sanders. But Chubb's got some outs here, so I think he's still a good click late now that he's not actually getting drafted anywhere because he fucking jumped over a box. Wide receiver, we got Justin Jefferson, Marvin Harrison, part of that Arizona stack, DJ Moore, Jaden Higgins, Keon Coleman, Christian Kirk, Adam Thielen, Jalen Noel, of course, part of that Houston stack we got with Stroud, and Tyler Lockett here. Maybe we get Houston, Tennessee in week 17. That'd be nice. Even though it doesn't matter as much for drafters, doesn't hurt to put you over the top for the final points when you need to actually finish well and get some money. The tight end, Trey McBride, Tucker Kraft, just didn't feel like we needed a third here. Like both guys a good amount, got a good discount on Kraft as well. I think this team works. The RB room absolutely could have been better again, but like we got elite real guys. Receiver room could have been better again, but I added a ton of volume. And frankly, Thielen, Lockett, I would put these guys with Slayton as like late clicks that probably have a good shot at an outcome. I'm good with this team. So that's our drafters draft for today, guys. You're going to get more volume of drafts here coming up for me now that I'm stabilized on the schedule here. We got DraftKings drafts going on Stochastic Tuesday and Thursday. At the very least, going to get these at 4 p.m. for me on Thursday this week again. But I'm probably going to do a draft tomorrow because we get the schedule release. So as long as that comes out tomorrow, stay tuned here. Hit the like button and subscribe, guys. It goes a long way for me here. Just one content creator doing the best I can to run NFL basketball stuff in addition to DFS all year. Also doing basketball and MLBs. Well, doing MLB on Stochastic, but doing basketball and MLB on the Splash Play Bets channel. I do a lot to prepare and be competent at what I do, and I think I do it as well as anybody out there. So show some love if you can. Hit the like button, subscribe. Check out our sponsors too, of course, Drafters, who help me put on these shows directly by paying me to do them. $100 deposit match on Drafters. Check them out there. Great site. And again, I would say from my experience here, having done under 5 drafts and had top 12 finishes in playoff baseball, Drafters, you will have your money go further. And I really do think that's an important thing here. And, real-time assistance, they're going to be available on Drafters at some point. They're not really available now. So if that's another thing you're worried about, play on Drafters, use that promo code SPLASH. Stochastic, 15% off link down below. Unabated, 20% off link down below. All of that is there for you as well. And join the Discord if you want to get in there, talk football. We got a lot of great guys in there, guys like Chunk, KY in the chat, Robert Griffin III, Emo Cowboy. A lot of guys in the community who I've grown to know and love, and you guys will hopefully too if you join the Discord. And you too, I would love to grow and love you too, because frankly, we've had a lot of guys coming in who I think very sharp, have good takes, and that's what I'm trying to build. I don't want to build just a bunch of fucking idiots to take their $5. So you want to come in, get better at the stuff, hop in there, join the Discord, join the channel, does support the show. Make sure to gamble responsibly, guys. It's always money time here on this channel. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at Splash Play Pod. Gamble responsibly, and no matter what. And I'll see you guys again probably tomorrow for more. If not, I'll be doing an NBA stream tomorrow. We'll also be on Stochastic for their MLB stuff tomorrow too. So check that out. Check out my DraftKings stream on Stochastic too, right before this one. If you want to go see that on there, it's another good piece of PPR content for you. I'll see you guys again soon. Enjoy your days. Good luck, and go draft on Drafters, guys. Bye-bye.